Hello, this is Scott Manley, and I'm here to talk you through the latest changes to our favourite space simulation sandbox, Kerbal Space Program. Now, the game is still in beta, but we are about to see the imminent release of version 0.18, which adds the long-awaited docking feature. This lets you take two different spacecraft in orbit and dock them together into one larger spacecraft, and of course the applications of this are multitude. Most obviously, you can finally do the Kerbal equivalent of the Apollo moon missions, taking two spacecraft to the moon, landing one on the surface and leaving the other in orbit for you to return home in, and therefore saving a small amount of fuel over the current giant rocket design, which is all you've had available up to this point, at least without the use of mods. Or you can use docking to build giant structures in orbit piece by piece, either according to some grand design, or you can put random pieces together and end up with a giant space shantytown in orbit. And while you're in orbit, this is a perfect time to examine the new surface of Kerbin, which has been completely redone for this version, with new landscape, new textures, and new biomes. It looks vastly more beautiful and will no doubt make those Kerbals feel more homesick once you strand them in orbit with no fuel. And Kerbin isn't the only corner of the universe to get an update. There are two new celestial bodies in the form of Dres, the minor planet, and Paul, a small moon around Jewel. Finally, the planet Moho has been completely redesigned and no longer threatens to overheat your spaceship when you come close to it. And the whole process of getting your spacecraft to these exotic new destinations has been greatly simplified by the addition of the maneuver node system. This lets you design future maneuvers for your spacecraft and figure out what the outcome will be. This gets you much more information and feedback around trajectory planning and makes it a lot easier for the average person to travel to another planet without wasting all their fuel on pointless maneuvers. Now, of course, I've realised that I've managed to skip over the first thing you'll notice when you boot up the new Kerbal Space Program. The vehicle assembly building user interface has been completely changed, and there's some pleasant music in the background to accompany your construction of epic vehicles that will take you to the stars. During construction, you now have the ability to associate specific actions that would normally require you to right-click on a part. You can bind all these actions to single key presses using the new action group system. This can be as mundane as deploying solar panels or ladders, or you can bind a hotkey to decouple your capsule and shoot it away from a disintegrating rocket as part of an emergency escape system. The new version, of course, brings a whole slew of new parts. We are up to something like 128 items in the vehicle construction toolkit. In addition to new engines and fuel tanks, we now have space probes, electrical power systems, and sensors. And they have restored the ability to build spacecraft with more than one crew capsule out of the box. So you can load up your planetary lander and orbiter onto the same rocket and send them off to their destination in one launch. The new electrical power system lets you move your spacecraft using high-efficiency ion engines, providing you can feed them with enough power, either from solar panels or nuclear generators. And the addition of electrical power has now allowed a whole redesign of the resource system. Now there are multiple types of fuel. You no longer want to mix your rocket fuel with your aviation fuel because they won't work. And if you're building aircraft with jet engines, now you're going to have air intakes on them so they can scoop up the atmosphere and power their jets. It's now possible to power your jet planes to even higher altitudes by putting more air intakes on them. This resource system is of course laying the foundations for future versions, and it will see a lot of use by modders, I don't doubt. Anyway, that's my satellite level view of Kerbal Space Program 0.18. It is a hugely ambitious release and they have done great work here. I personally am not aware of the details of the public release. However, on Friday there is KerbalKon, which will be an extensive 16-hour streaming event featuring celebrities, devs, and crashing rockets, no doubt. I expect we'll find out then. And I'll see you there. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.